We're going to talk about waterproofing your battery case by replacing the stock foam pad with some closed cell neoprene. I'm curious, how waterproof is a battery charge port plug? Let's test it and find out. The rubber stopper has kept the water out of the plug hole, but water has crept in around the charge port. It could be enough to turn the sticker on your battery red. This is a problem because if your board stops working during the warranty period from an issue that is not battery related, one look at that red sticker and they'll say, "Sorry, you have to buy a new battery." The hot glue used around the plug is pretty stiff stuff. Water worked its way in between the metal and the glue and has begun to separate, so we're going to remove it. With the hot glue removed, I can see that the retaining nut is pretty loose. Snug this up, but be careful not to over-compress the plug gasket on the other side. To seal the charge port, we're going to use some waterproof silicone like you would use on bathroom tubs and sinks. We're going to repeat the same process around the power button on the ESC case. Okay, the silicone is dry. Let's see if that's going to improve things. Okay, so it appears that the silicone has done the job. No water has managed to seep in around the charging port. So let's put it together with our new gaskets and see how we do. Okay, what you're going to need is a piece of 8mm or 5/16 closed cell neoprene, spare pads that came with your board, metal straight edge, utility knife, pencil, and if you got one, a hole punch, and some kind of weight to hold stuff down. Your battery will work great for this since tape does not stick to this neoprene very well. So this is what we're going to need. Let's get started. First thing we're going to want to do is trace out our gasket onto the neoprene. So we're going to put these guys down, give it maybe an extra 1/8 of an inch, 3 millimeters more than the existing foam pad, so you have a little bit more overhang on your battery and your ESC case. You want to hold this in place so it doesn't move around while you're tracing it. Tape, I found, does not stick to this neoprene very well, but something heavy like your battery will hold it in place pretty well so that we can trace it. Now that we've got them traced out onto our neoprene, the next step is going to be cut them out. For this step, you're going to need metal straight edge and your utility knife. And just be careful in this step because, you know, sharp stuff. Now again, we're going to cut about an 1/8 of an inch outside of the line that we made so that we have a little bit more overhang. So let's get to it. Okay, now that we've got our new neoprene gaskets cut out, let's go ahead and punch a hole for each of our screws. Now I'm going to use a hole punch with a 4.5mm. I recommend using a hole punch because it will cut a nice circular hole out of the neoprene, and the screws won't cause the neoprene to tear as you push them in and out if the hole is too small. You can see that makes a nice circular hole so that as the screw goes through, it's not going to cause any tearing or deformation of the rubber as you squeeze stuff together when you assemble your board back together. Okay, the last thing you need to do to your new neoprene gasket before you can install it is you have to cut a hole for your plug to pass through. With the backup foam pads that come with your board, you should notice that there's like a little poke on the foam pad, and that's where the cord comes through. What we're going to do is we're going to line it up using the bolt holes, and we're going to mark on our neoprene gasket where to make the cut for our plug. And in this case, I'm just going to poke it with a nail because I just need to see where it where the cut needs to happen. Okay, we're going to want to take the old foam pads off of our deck. Now to test it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stuff the battery case with paper towels, stick it in a bucket of water, and then when I take it apart, check and see if any of those paper towels have gotten wet. Okay, so it looks like the water stayed away from the inside. We got a little bead of moisture around the edge where the seal was. Nothing got inside. Little bit of moisture around the screw holes, but nothing managed to get inside. And from what I can see from these paper towels, they appear to be completely dry. Now I'm going to want to pay particularly close attention to the paper towels that are over here by the charging port. Let's see how they're doing. As you can see, completely dry. And taking a closer look inside, you can see that there is no moisture that has started to work its way in around the charging port. So, there you have it. Neoprene gasket, silicone around your charge port, you're waterproof. With everything bolted back together, we can see that the appearance of the board hasn't changed much over the stock setup. Nice and clean. Another benefit to this mod, if you swap your deck with something that has a more pronounced concave, the stock foam pads are going to leave gaps at the corners of the cases. The 8mm neoprene provides enough extra thickness to create a seal, and since they don't need to be glued in place, they're easy to swap from one deck to another. Now you don't need to go crazy bolting the cases down, just enough to create a seal around the corners. Thanks for watching. Ride safe.